Welcome to another episode of the Alphawaves podcast.
Yes.
You're here with your hosts, Darren and
Kam.
We are back in the building for another episode.
Mm-hmm.
This episode is in collaboration with Happiness Camp.
Yes, it is.
So, with that being said, how are you today?
I didn't expect you to say that. I thought you were going to say, what are we talking about today?
No.
But what a lovely question. I'm feeling good today. How are you?
I'm good also.
Mm.
Do you want to let us know what we are talking about today?
I would love to do that. So today's episode is all about personal development.
Yep.
Mm.
So, with personal development, we think it's an important thing to kind of touch on from various aspects of your life because a lot of people require it, I think.
Good start, actually. Like, when you hear the words personal development, what do you think of? Like, do you take it to one area or section of your life, or?
I look at it like holistically. So
I love that.
you can't, obviously you can't do everything at once. So there's going to be points where you need to focus on different things.
Yeah.
But it comes back to our favorite word, accountability.
I knew. I was thinking surrender, and I was like, that's my
That's
favorite
definitely
word.
not my favorite word. That's my worst word ever. Surrender.
How could you say that? After everything we've spoken about. But yeah, accountability.
Yeah. So that's how I look at personal development. What about yourself?
I would kind of say the same. I feel like personal development is exactly what you said, in terms of there'll be some areas of your life you'll be developing more than others at different times. But I don't think I necessarily use the word accountability with personal development. I would say humility, like being humble, and also openness. Because I feel like when you are focusing on personal development, you have to be so receptive, especially in a holistic sense. Like, say, if you're on a healing journey or a mental health journey or things within yourself, you have to be really open and receptive to what you're seeing, but humble as well, in order to allow yourself to be able to learn and able to taught and be that continuous student of life, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely takes a lot of humbleness because you're basically saying to yourself that whatever version of yourself you are now, you want to improve on it.
Yeah.
And that's going to take work.
It does take work. And you're also saying to yourself that you actually don't know everything. And I feel like that can be scary, but also a relief, you know? It kind of takes the pressure off. Like, yeah, I actually don't know everything.
But you're not meant to, though. That's the whole beauty of the journey of development, is learning new things and applying that to your life. So with that being said, I need to stop saying that line as well.
And I need to stop going,
Personal development.
That aligned beautifully. But
highlighting some of the areas of personal development. Let's start with career development.
I was hoping you'd take it there.
I know that's your favorite.
That's our favorite. we always take it there. But yeah, go on.
Just within careers and workplaces, what do you think is the hardest part about personal development?
Do you mean in a new role or an established role where you've been?
Either, whichever you prefer to.
So the hardest parts about personal development.
Or most challenging. I don't want to say hardest. Most challenging.
The most challenging things. I think there's two sides. I think as an employee, you could be quite comfortable in your role, or see this role as just a paycheck, you know, and not really be as invested in gaining stimulation from that role, in which case I feel growth is the priority. You know, if your brain, your mind is expanding, your world expands. So I think having an element of personal development is important anywhere. And that can be a challenge when you don't really see yourself moving beyond where you are. I think another challenge is limiting what personal development could be. So for instance, you could think personal development in career is moving up in a career or learning more about the role itself. Whereas personal development could be, my role is related to this particular thing.
Yeah.
Maybe I could do a course related to that, but not necessarily in the same realm. That is also personal development. So I feel like there can be limitations. And I think one of the biggest challenges is obviously working in a workplace that doesn't do that. Like, it doesn't support personal development.
Do you think that's common?
Yeah, actually, I do think
so?
that's common. Yeah, I think every workplace wants you to be invested and have a future there and want a future there. But I'm not sure that every workplace is interested in your personal development.
See, that's where I feel like a lot of it. Well, obviously, I've not worked in every workplace, so I don't know. It's limited. But my thing is, like, what are you doing within yourself to try and make it happen in that place? Because I feel like this is why I mentioned accountability. I feel like some people want personal development, but they want someone else to kind of not do it for them, but make it as much of an avenue for them to do it without actually taking it upon themselves and saying, I want to develop in this area. Let me bring this to their attention, or be a bit more proactive with it. And I feel the opportunity for personal development lies within the person more so than wherever they are at.
I think so, in terms of being growth minded, but then also thinking about maybe younger people at work and mentorship. Sometimes if you can be really good at your job and you're expanding in your role and doing all these things and bringing in more opportunities and money for the company, sometimes that company will work you to the bone just in that area, rather than seeing something in you and thinking, oh, let's develop you further. You know, you have this real ability, let's craft that more.
That's always important, though. I feel like even though everything I just said, I do feel like a level of collaboration almost can go a long way in personal development. Like, if somebody can see it within you and see that you're trying and you want to do this thing, and they make it happen for you, as in they'll make sure that opportunities come your way, make sure that they're creating pathways for you to have this personal development once you've expressed it. But if you're not expressing it and then you're expecting it, is when I think you're doing yourself a very big disservice.
I don't know at the same time, because I feel like as an employer, isn't it kind of your responsibility almost to do that for your employees?
I think it depends on the culture of where it is, like the culture of the company and the ethics and the ethos of that company.
Yeah.
Like, any company that I would create of my own, or that I have created on my own, if I was to then move on to employing anyone, I wouldn't want to be in a position where I'm stumping your growth. Like, I would want to see you grow beyond.
Yeah.
But that's because that's my mentality. If that culture is not within the workplace, then you're reaching, really, ain't you?
Yeah. So then how, it's kind of what you said, like, you do need that element of collaboration, but that's why I feel like workplaces really, I urge them to adopt that mindset, because when you're working somewhere where they really don't have a glass ceiling and they want to keep developing you, you don't know who someone you hired as a junior salesperson, what they could end up being, even outside of that realm of sales. If there's other talents within them that they might not see in themselves. Sometimes people just need to be given a chance to motivate them for something more, and that could come from the lack of experience in work in general. It could come from maybe their lack of awareness in their ability, or even their awareness of how invested in you invested in them that you are. You know, sometimes when someone comes to you with an opportunity, you're like, wow, I didn't even know that's how you felt and it motivates you. I think
definitely there's that element.
Works more than the stick sometimes.
Yeah. There's that element of it. So there's two things on that. There's the side of, like you're saying, someone presenting you with something that you didn't even know that they was looking at you in that way can boost you to do it. But there's also the other side of, I want to do this thing, I'm not seeing the opportunity to do it here. Then it's about changing your environment.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you need to change your environment for personal development.
You do.
You can't outgrow some things. Like some environments, there's a limit to where you can get to in that environment, but it doesn't mean that's the limit to where you can get to as a person. It's just that environment.
That's so true. So on that note then, what do you think about personal development in the lens of staying in a company and growing within a company versus job hopping or going or having different experiences in different roles?
I'd have to put a different hat on to really answer this truthfully. If you're asking me,
as opposed to who else am I?
If you're asking me personally, with my outlook on work and stuff is a bit different.
As opposed to what's the other hat?
The other hat is somebody that is very work focused, as in working for a company and trying to work their way up because that's their ultimate goal. My thing is, right, my ultimate goal, as you know, is to be an owner of my own stuff. Well established. But in situations where I am working, I still want to have that element of personal development, because if I'm in a role for too long and it's not moving, then I'm just stunting my own growth, right?
Yeah.
So I approach everything as trying to be the best version of myself anyway. So naturally, if I'm going to be in a place, my eyes are always going to be looking upwards. Like, how can I move up?
I love that phrase.
Because everything around me is surface level.
Yeah.
Surface level gives you so many things that you don't need in your life.
I was just going to keep going.
So naturally, I want to elevate to a position where I'm developing myself beyond what's at that surface level, so that when I am ready to make that next step in my life, whether it's within that company or somewhere else, I'm already coming at it from a higher position than if I was approaching it from a lower, if that makes sense. So I think sometimes sticking it out in a company, if you can see room for maneuver, can serve you better than just moving around and having to start again from the surface level. However, if you are in a place where you can't see room for movement, then moving around, like I said, sometimes you need to change the environment for your personal development.
Yeah.
It's all about the environment that you're in.
Yeah.
And what your ultimate goal is, really.
I share similar views. I do share similar views.
But you defer where?
A couple spaces. So I feel like one view I definitely share is that, and it goes back to what I just said previously too, that when you don't work in a workplace that prioritizes growth, either with like internal promotions or personal development, it leaves a lot of room for, I call, fake benefits.
What does that mean?
Bribes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
In terms of, we're not going to develop you further, but we'll have a ping pong table in the kitchen, so you can do that, or we'll have drinks every so and so, or we'll have this. We have culture.
They're creating a certain environment.
Yeah, we'll give you like vouchers for this. I feel like a lot of workplaces, some workplaces disguise benefits as bribes, and then other workplaces do a great job where they give you a learning allowance to put towards something, or they allow you to have a holiday allowance. My current job does that, where they allow you to go work abroad. You can work from home but in another country, and it doesn't take from your holiday amount, which I think is great because you're enriching yourself. So that is also personal development. And I think that's a key difference, that if you don't really have those things, then you're caught in almost like this work social world.
Yeah.
And that's a great way to pass your 7-8 hours and add some more out of your personal time, but it's not feeding anything into your time there. So that's where I agree. Where I would kind of differ, I think there's a strong benefit when you're working in a company that does prioritize growth in sticking that out and really grounding yourself and developing roots and moving forward and, you know, making connections, building trust, seeing your own journey develop, things like that. It's really amazing.
Yeah.
But I also will say that there is benefit to moving a couple times with workplaces, because it just opens your world in many different ways. And one thing that I've learned from doing that, like, I'm not necessarily a job hopper, but I have worked in a few places, and you kind of, if you don't have an established goal, it's a great way to figure out what your goals are. It's a good way to figure out what kind of work environments work for you. So you're experimenting rather than blending. And also, you really do learn so much faster in terms of being adaptable, learning how to, you know, whatever learning curves you had in your last workplace, you can start fresh and new in another one. Obviously, things with salary and negotiating that, I do feel there's more opportunity when
definitely when you're
an external. Exactly. So, you know, when you start fresh and new, you don't really come from nothing. Like, the experience that you had prior will always play some part in what you're doing.
I get that.
And you're around different people as well.
I was gonna say, you see, like, something that's very underrated is you can learn a lot from new people.
You really can.
And if you're in a place where you're just seeing the same people for years upon years and there's no movement above and around you, there's only so much you can learn about the actual work that you're doing. The rest of it comes from people, right? And learning from other people. And if you're not meeting new people, it's going to be difficult for you to do that type of development and learning. So that is the big plus for me when you're moving around, is the new people that you meet.
For sure. The
new relationships you make, the new information you're privy to. Information is the most important thing.
The new identity. Some people, like, say, if you started in your 20s, early 20s, and then stay somewhere for 5, 6, 7 years, there's all that growth there, not attached to a new identity. Potentially the potential of that is there. There's also a potential of being a big fish in a small pond as well. So I feel like, and even on like a more energy level, you know, like when you're changing your frequency, you naturally do align with different opportunities that match that growth internally that you've created. And you're kind of denying yourself an opportunity to do that when you decide to stay at one place without exploring other opportunities. Obviously, if you've moved around and then found something that's like the ideal job, the ideal people, matches your mindset, growth mindset, everything, and feeds you in your personal development, then you should stay there, I feel. But if there's something missing, I don't think there's any harm in looking around.
Not at all. You got to look out for yourself, no matter how.
You have to be a lot more loyal to your own personal development than to managers.
Definitely.
I hope my managers aren't listening, but I'm joking.
No, but that's the reality, because I'm sure they would be looking out for themselves, their own development as well. Yeah. Like, nobody's tied to a specific role or a job. So there's always going to be scope for movement. Yeah. And you have to really focus on yours as well.
Exactly.
So that is important to do. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. You can't say one is better than the other, right? You can't. You actually can't, you know? It's all circumstantial. Because you also need to grow. You know, if you're constantly moving from job to job, then you're constantly going to be the new person. You're never going to
see really how, or the relatively new person, you're not going to allow yourself to go through those milestones of growth that you have a year in, 2 years in, 3 years in. And that level of growth is also very important to experience.
It comes with a new level of
responsibility.
Yeah, and respect as well.
And stability. Yeah.
Yeah. People do respect somebody that's grown within a company as well.
Yeah. You really do.
It's just about, again, it comes back to what your ultimate goal is, really. If it's something that you've always wanted to do in terms of working and growing within a company, then you've got to find your feet somewhere at some point. You can't always just move around. But I don't know.
I think when you're young, it may be more important to move around sometimes.
So?
Yeah, because some workplaces can gaslight into making you think that this is the most ideal situation. And when you're younger, you are looking for that social element. When you're a little more seasoned, you are looking for that stability and personal development. From my own experience, I found. And also you're aligning more with your passions. Like, it's through working in different areas and seeing what was valuable to me in each that's made me feel more clear on what's important to me.
I get what you mean. But I think it's also important, though, to not let age be a restrictor of your development. Like, even if you're in a older stage in your life, and you feel the need to change your environment
or even your career,
I think you need to do it.
That's a good point, actually. I
think you should. Everything has an expiration date. Doesn't really matter how old you are if it's
exactly. You just have to aspire to inspire before you expire.
I'm glad you hit it.
That?
Who did?
Kim Kardashian.
Oh, go away. I thought it was actually I heard it somewhere else.
Oh, really?
I don't know where.
Maybe she stole it then, or maybe they stole it off her. Who knows? But anyway, back to personal development. How do you feel about personal development in other areas of your life, aside from like growth, aside from professional or even personal achievement? Just growing as a person, emotional maturity,
emotional intelligence.
Yes. Or mental strength, stability, those types of things.
How do you go about it? Or you asking? Is that? Yeah, I'm asking you. How do you go about it? Or is that what you was asking me?
No, I was just. I was asking you, where do you stand on that? How do you feel about it? How important is it? What hinders that? What helps it? It's a 5-in-1 question.
Yeah, it's a loaded question.
It's very loaded.
It's. Let me start with the importance of it. I think it's one of the most important things you can do in life.
Yeah.
Is have that personal growth and development, because there's no way that you should still be reacting in the same way to certain situations that you would when you was figuring out life in general as a teenager, to then being an adult and you're still figuring out life, but now there's an added element of like really figuring out your role in life and your position in life and who you are in life. Just that within itself requires a level of growth and personal development, because you've not got that innocence of youth anymore. You have to actually
invest in that.
Yeah, otherwise you're going to be one of those people that are trapped in time. And I don't think that's, I can't think of a better word to say. I don't think that's cute for anybody. Like, it's just not.
It's just so funny how you went from so deep to it's not giving, it's not cute.
I couldn't think of a better word to say in that moment.
I was like, whoa, trapped in time.
It's just not, it's not like to see somebody stuck in a certain way. It's just not, it's not favorable to yourself.
Yeah, it's not. It's really not. I feel sad and frustrated when I see people who do that. But then I also, even hearing you say that, it made me feel a little cold inside, because I feel like it's like what you said, not every issue is going to be ironed out in a certain period of your time. And I think in terms of personal development, personally with your internal world, I'm really adjusting to the fact that there's always more to learn. And when there is more to learn, it's hard not to feel like some things catch you off guard. And I'm trying to remember that as long as you're dedicated to improving, that is also enough, you know, for that stage that you're in, because there's some things in you that catch you off guard and you're just like, I thought I dealt with that, or I didn't even know that was an issue, especially when you're in new situations.
Yeah.
And for me, that's why I said humility, because it kind of shakes you a little bit with thinking that you were so solid, and then you kind of go through one layer of yourself, get comfortable in that, become a teacher and help other people with that layer of themselves. And then you get into a new situation, new environment, and you see a whole other layer. And it's hard not to feel set back when you see the beginning of more work to do.
You don't see it as like a new journey or a new chapter? I'm speaking in hindsight because I don't think anybody ever at that moment in time sees it that way.
I'm glad you said that, so I don't have to lie.
Let's be honest.
You don't.
In an ideal world, you would see it that way, but it's never ideal time.
You have to adjust to the way that you see it, and not necessarily take your time with it. I'm feeling, because you kind of have to deal with things there and then, but you have to be patient with the time it takes. I'm realizing.
I think that's the one thing we can't determine, right? How long it takes.
Yeah.
But it's a difficult one because it is something that you try and get a handle over. Like, I don't know, when things are happening, initially, I find it difficult to just look at it as a new growth period in my life, right?
Especially when you feel like things are falling apart, which is literally what's happening, because you're seeing things and they're falling off you. Literally.
But there comes a part of it, at whatever stage it is for everyone else, is totally individual, I think. But for me, there always comes a part where I'm like, what do I need to do? Like, there comes that internal conversation where I'm like, let me map this out, because right now it's a puzzle. I just need to map this out and find a way. But that doesn't come immediately. And I wish it did sometimes, because it would help you deal with the matter at hand in a better way.
Yeah.
And probably gives you even more room for growth. Because there's always room to grow, but sometimes we can stunt our growth because we're looking at things from the wrong way. If we look at it as in the perspective of, this is just something you need to figure out,
grow through.
Yeah. You don't have, you're not meant to have everything figured out. It's part of the whole process.
That period, that transition of change though, can really shake you, because there is a point where you feel like, yes, I'm not doing things how I used to do them, and you're feeling more sure of yourself, and then something shakes that. And you suddenly feel the exact opposite. What I'm trying to do with that is similar to what you said, like, okay, what are the pros and cons of my life right now? You know, like, what's being highlighted to me? What am I seeing that I want to get rid of? Like, I don't want to grow this, because you can grow things in your life that aren't good for you too, you know? So I'm trying to look at what areas to grow and what areas that just need to be told no.
Yeah. I get that. It's a lot of work, individual work. That's what it comes down to.
And that's the thing too, like, where do you draw the line with personal development, helping you grow, develop, and letting nature take its course in that, and then seeing yourself as a project, because you're a person, not a project? Like, what's the grace of humanity that you give yourself?
Number one, is it in my control or not?
That's a key
I think
question.
that's the most important thing. How much of it is in my control? Am I, like, if I can do whatever I need to do and leave the rest to nature and timing, then so be it. But in terms of like treating yourself like a project, it depends on what it is you're developing. So, for instance, if you are physically developing, so gym or fitness or whatever, well-being in general, eating better, etc., that's something that's like tangible and measurable. Even that though, you can't determine when you're gonna see the changes, but it's measurable in terms of what you know, that if you don't do X, Y, and Z, nothing's gonna change, right? Like if you don't start eating a certain way, if you don't start training or taking focus on your fitness, it's not just gonna magically happen for you.
Yeah.
Whereas, let's say something.
Just to stay on that for
Go
a
on.
sec. What I was gonna say. don't go
Don't
anywhere.
worry, I'm still here.
Just to stay on that, I think an important part of that too, like when you're setting certain milestones or goals, whoa, is one thing that I read from the book Atomic Habits is that especially when you're, because change doesn't happen overnight, Rome wasn't built in a day. They said to kind of take the thing that you want to do and do the most bare minimum version of that to get yourself going at first.
Okay. What does that look like for you?
I personally
Have you taken that on board?
don't. Because I don't know, I feel like that can work. So the example that someone else gave was starting with, you know, if you want to wake up at 6 a.m. and do this, first you need to focus on waking up at 6 a.m. To an extent, I think it does work. But then I also believe that your body always takes time to adjust to certain things. So for instance, my brother, like when he started a new job, instead of leaving time to get used to his new job and then bringing in his gym days, he did it all in one go so that his body could just get used to that routine and adjust immediately rather than doing one thing and then another. So I feel like there's a balance of both. But I also know that some habits are really hard to change. So it does really help to say, okay, what's the most easiest realistic version of this I can do? Because there'll be times when I'll set up a whole list of new habits for myself, and it is very hard to do everything in one go, because you're not just thinking, okay, wake up at this time, make my bed, do this, do that. You're thinking, you know, instead of waking up and thinking, wake up, make my bed, you're thinking, I don't want to get out of bed because I've got all this stuff to do. So there's a balance with it, I feel. What's your thoughts?
I agree, there's a balance to it, but your mentality determines a lot. And that's probably one of the things that you have the most control over, the way you think.
Yeah. What you say to yourself.
Yeah. And you can literally do anything if you're telling yourself you can do it. You might not be able to do it to the best of the ability, but you'll be able to do it. Like,
yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. That one's always a bit conflicting because there is a balance, and it needs to be a balance because there's a balance in everything.
Yeah.
Good. But I do think a lot of it weighs down onto how you think about things. Do you see it as a difficult situation or just something to overcome?
And what do you tell yourself? Like, for instance, the other day it kind of happened to me where I was taking a while to get out of bed to do the self-care things that I like to do in the morning. And I was just kind of wasting time and saying all those things that, you know, you tend to say to yourself in that situation, that you don't want to do it, blah, 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 it's too hard. And then I just started saying to myself, I deserve to be taken care of. That's it. Like, I just deserved. Within 2 seconds, I jumped out of bed, opened my curtains, did what I needed to do. Like, your body and your cells really listen to you. You are the commanding voice. So it's not like your body is telling you what to do. You tell it what to do.
100%. 100%. I say that all the time because, not anymore because I'm a grown person and I don't need to make excuses, yeah? But you see, like, when I was younger, if there was something upcoming and I wasn't keen on it, and I'll just be like, I feel like I'm just gonna tell them that I'm sick or something. When the day came, I would actually feel a bit run down, like I'm not making it up. I actually don't feel well, and it's because I know that I told myself, from advance, that you're not gonna feel good.
Yeah.
Obviously, if it was on the day and I just woke up and I'm like, oh, I don't feel well, it's not going to have the same impact. But because I kind of predetermined that from days before and was telling myself that, it's like,
it's a real thing.
Yeah, it's
your
real.
body's like, whatever you say, boss. if that's what you're saying,
it's
then yeah.
real.
You know, someone said to me, they were like, you have to just be a grown up. Like, you'll always have.
That sounds like a personal thing to, like, in your conversation. Like,
wait, what you?
You said somebody said to you, you just have to be a grown up. That doesn't sound like just a normal conversation. That sounds like someone was actually
saying that to me. I'm not going to divulge any more information, but they did say, we were having a general conversation, but they were saying, in regard to discipline, and they were saying, you just have to be a grown up. Like, you're always going to feel things, but those are feelings, and feelings go. Once you're out of bed, once you're doing something, feelings go.
100%. Well, you have to get to a stage where you realize that, though. And you can only do that by, like, reflecting on things that you've been through, I think. And just remembering how you felt at that time compared to how you feel now.
So true, you know. When I think about personal development in terms of overcoming hardship, for example, thinking back on it really grounds me, because I'm like, well, if you could do that, you could do it all. Or even comparing it to other people and what they may have been through and their inspiring stories. It doesn't mean they never had a bad day or a day without faith. But if they could do that, and they're truly not really any more different than me, no one declared them a genius.
Exactly.
Then why can't I do that?
Exactly. That's the mentality you have to kind of carry.
Yeah.
And everybody's been through things to give them that level of, what would be the word to use? But that level of experience, basically. Like, everybody's been through something.
Wisdom.
Where you can draw back on it and say, I didn't think I would get through that, but look where I am now, and how I feel about it now is totally different to how I felt about it then.
Yeah. It's so true, you know. You have to keep looking at how much your life has transformed, even if where you're at is so far from where you want to be, because it gives you hope in thinking that if I could be here now, and I really didn't think I would, just imagine where I could be.
It's a journey. Life is a journey in itself, but just the journey of personal development is full of so many twists and turns and moments that you could never see coming.
There's more outside of your control, but everything within you, how you react, how you think, how you feel, how you behave, is completely in your control. And that's something I'm truly not the master of yet, but it does help me stop feeling so powerless when there's so many things outside of my control. Because one thing I've realized is that life will always be lifing. Life always happens. And through speaking to other people and hearing things that they're dealing with sometimes, I'm like, life really does happen for everyone. Stability isn't external. You have to be the stability.
I think everyone has things that happens to them as much as they have things that happen for them. But we don't pay enough attention to the things that's happening for us. It's always about the stuff that's happening to us.
I really like that you called a difference between 2 and 4, because one thing that I couldn't really connect with that goes around sometimes is that everything is happening for us. And then a couple things happened to me that were for sure not for me.
But
and I couldn't really make peace with that.
Maybe it was for you, though. You just didn't realize why it was for you. Just bad things that happened that I think bad things that happened to you, it still teaches you something. So it was for you. It's just maybe the timing wasn't for you as you wanted it to be.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe, because I do say there's some things that you only really learn or realize why they happened in retrospect. And if you don't know that yet, then it's not retrospect yet. But I also believe that you can validate yourself and say, like, I will always wish that never happened, and I'm allowed to do that. It doesn't mean that that was absent of any silver linings. It doesn't mean that it hasn't contributed to where I am today and was a significant moment, or maybe I needed that lesson. But I'm allowed to say that was an unfair situation, or that was a situation I didn't like, or I could have done without that, and be allowed to feel that way.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think everything needs a storyline.
Yeah.
Some things just happen. I don't think everything needs to be looked into.
Not everything is character arc.
Yeah.
Character development.
Not everything. But there is a element of things that are, and it's about recognizing that, I think.
Yeah.
And how that does make you develop as a person. Why do you think, or let me ask, do you think it is important to have these moments of reflection in your development stage?
I think moments of reflection are essential throughout your whole life all the time, regardless of development. You have to reflect, otherwise, and I'm learning this, like I've seen what happens to me when I don't reflect and what happens when I do, and you can literally end up feeling like a ball of string just wrapped all around, and you don't really know what's going on with you. And how can you really know what you're learning, what you like, what you don't like, how you feel, where you want to go, if you aren't reflecting on what's happened? I think actually, in terms of like emotional maturity and stuff like that, what really hinders that, what keeps people in their teenage 20s, high school phase, is a lack of reflection. Because through reflecting, you're also releasing and discovering things. Otherwise, you're just playing things out from that same space if you haven't processed and reflected on it, I feel.
Okay. Yeah, reflection is important, but...
Yeah. Even on a surface... Sorry, I know you're about to say something. Even on a surface level thing, how do you know how well you're doing on your fitness journey or your wellness journey or your health journey if you aren't reflecting and checking in with yourself? Or seeing how eating healthier or stopping a habit is impacting your body?
Yeah, you need reflection. Just the bottom line is,
it's just the bottom line. It's a key part and process of personal development. So what other two things, or maybe not limited to a number, what other things do you think are key for personal development?
Outside of what we've mentioned already, I think one of the key things would be, what would I say? Outside of what we mentioned, I think it's just a matter of recognizing where you are and what you want from things is like one of the key things of personal development, because you got to focus on yourself. There's no point looking at what other people have got and what other people are doing in those moments, but you can look at it and draw from it, as in, I want that for myself. How do I do that?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Rather than leaving it as I want that for myself. It's that, how do I do that part that I think is very key. Like, I think personal development is just literally unlocking so many different bolts inside yourself that's just locked up, waiting for you to find either the right moment, the right environment, like I mentioned before. Like, because it's all within us. It's not like it's magically being put into us as we go along the way. It's in us. We're just unlocking.
I like that. I'm envisioning it as like going deeper and deeper into different layers. Like it's already in your
it's
blueprint.
In there already. It's within us.
On the back of that, I would say a level of vulnerability, because you really can learn so much from people, even unexpectedly, who can almost mentor you into getting closer to your goals, or being vulnerable with, you know, you're where I want to be. How did you get there?
Information to me is priceless. And that is probably the key to anything, is information. So development is the same thing.
Never be afraid to ask.
Yeah, literally. What's gonna happen?
They say no, you are someone else. Like, who cares?
Information is gold. So That's key to development, I think, is being open to receiving new information, not being scared to seek it out. Because, yeah, how else are you going to learn how to do certain things if you're not finding out how to do certain things?
Yeah, I would say that's key. So I think having a clear eye on your outcome, your goals, is important. Being open to collaboration is important. Reflecting is important. I think an element of curiosity as well. You know, you might want to do something and personally develop an area maybe, or dive into something that is just a hobby that turns into something else, or even vice versa. Like, you could have it in your head, like, I 100% want to do this thing and see it grow, and you might be forcing a whole situation where that thing just ends up being a hobby or an outlet or something else, you know?
You can't be scared of that.
Of change, yeah. You can't be married to your
idea.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think that's, yeah, definitely. I agree. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. All right. Anything else you want to add before I start to bring it to a close?
I think I'm personally developed out. I'm kidding. It's a lifelong journey. Do I want to add anything else, actually, now that I've said that? I think one thing that comes up for me when I'm going deeper on a personal development journey outside of achievement, which I think is we've said a lot of do's, I'd say this is a don't, which is to be patient with yourself. And remember, it's what you said to me earlier on off air, which was to remember that your difficulty navigating something comes from being in a new situation. Because I think one thing that can hold me back is feeling incompetent or stupid, or like, oh my God, I'm not as far along as I thought I was when I'm learning something new. So yeah, that's my last thing that I want to add.
Valuable, as always.
Oh, thanks.
So, like, to tie it up, what's been your biggest personal development so far this year, or in life? It's up to you.
My biggest personal development in life for this year, I'd say maybe my spiritual journey over the last few years. That, yeah, I would say that's truly, like, with meditation, with my faith, with connecting with that, also with open-mindedness, like not thinking, you know, that's one of the key things that when I started discovering these things for myself, with energy healing or meditation and all that stuff, it felt so good for me. I was almost forcing it onto other people as a single source of truth. And now I'm a lot more aware that my way is the best way for me, but it's not a universal truth. It's not the best way for everyone else. So there's a level of open-mindedness.
That's good. You feel like you still got a lot of development to do in that area?
Yeah, but now it feels more exciting, you know, instead of just like the healing aspect of it or connecting more to God or the universe. Now it's like, yeah, like how much more deeper can we go, or how much can I help this influence making my life better, rather than a discovery thing, which is what it was first, and then a practicing it thing, which is what it became, and then a healing thing.
That's cool.
What about you?
A few. Life, obviously, there's been plenty. This year, let me think of this year. I think my recent trip, actually, was served in so much personal development. And it's interesting because I didn't go there with that intention in mind. But upon returning, I can see how much I've developed as a person, just in terms of like being put in certain situations and the way I handle it, learning different ways of life.
What was the biggest factor for you with that?
learning different ways of life. Just remembering that it's not a rush. Like, we don't know how much time we do have, but we don't need to rush through life, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's so much room to grow. There's so much more to learn, and there's not a time limit on when you can learn and see these things. Like, the world is the world. The world is always, until something crazy happens, the world is always going to be there, right?
Yeah.
So there's always going to be more to discover about the world. And it was interesting because obviously I'm coming from a younger person in the grand scheme of life mindset, and I'm going out to a place and I'm being surrounded by people that's a lot older in life, and seeing how they're navigating is enlightening to me, because obviously you have this ideology that you get to a certain stage in life and maybe that's it, like you've done everything, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's still more to grow, because there's still that scope of putting yourself in a new environment. And
what was the biggest difference with what you just said, like being surrounded by older people? What was the biggest difference that you found in their mindset with age, and then also with culture, like in terms of being in another country and way of life?
Just remembering what's important, and the whole family aspect to life, and how we can take things for granted being here, as opposed to other countries. It's like there's a real unit, and there's just ideologies, like, I don't know, I don't think life is to be rushed through, but it's just very humbling when you see people older than you respecting life, if that makes sense. Like respecting the time of the day and respecting.
What does that mean?
Like, so we might, in this country, we might wake up and try and cram so much things in before we're busy, the night falls, and we do it all over again. Whether it is you've got a job or not, like, it's just, that's the way of life. And seeing somebody now know that they're going to wake up in the morning, do certain routines in the morning, certain things in the afternoon, certain things in the evening. There's just a bit more, I don't know how to describe it. It's just like there's a respect for life. Like, there's nothing crazy happening, if that makes sense. There's just this
easy flow.
Yeah, but like, they're not rushing through their day. They're not putting themselves at jeopardy for anything. Like, there's not this chase element. I think that's what it is. There's not the chase for anything. It's abundant, almost like things are gonna come. The day is gonna go how it's gonna go. Things are gonna come and happen as it should do. Like, I don't have to go out of my way to chase certain things.
Yeah.
And there's just a niceness to it. Maybe it's because I'm entering that space in a relaxed state. You know what I mean? Maybe if I was living there, it'd be a bit different.
Yeah.
But perspective, I think, is the main thing that I've taken from it in my personal development. It was perspective. Perspective is what I developed on a lot. And it's just, obviously I can dive deeper into the whole perspective thing in another episode. Because I think perspective is so important. Yes,
it is.
But
that will be coming soon.
That will come in this time. But that's my biggest personal development this year, is my development on perspective, which came as a result of this trip. That is so beautiful. Yeah. And I'm sure I speak for everyone when I say we're honoured to hear it. Great. The look you gave me, I'm not honoured to have seen that. But no, but genuinely, like, as you were speaking, I was just like, so many things, especially how you described cramming things into your day before you're busy. And it comes back into that idea of what we spoke about. We didn't really speak about it, but having that difference between personal development being more than how many things have you ticked off your list today? How productive were you? Like, how much are you contributing to just respecting that you got another day? Literally. It's very important.
Mm.
But yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a lot more development to come for ourselves, for everybody out there. So I hope this episode helps along the journey of it.
Exactly. Me too.
Yeah. But
Me too. Especially for myself. I'm joking.
If not for anyone else.
Not for anyone else, at least for me. Save me a seat, please.
I hear it. You gotta look selfishly sometimes. But yeah, now on that note, thank you everyone for joining us for another episode. If you're still with us, we appreciate you.
Yes.
All the comments and interactions on our socials. Leave a comment on Spotify and let us know what you think about this episode and your own self-development, what you're hoping to develop on. And follow us on our socials at Alphawaves _ Yes. Or just type in Alphawaves podcast and you'll see this logo or our faces. And you'll know you're in the right place. 100%. But yeah, no, seriously, thank you for joining us for another episode, and until next time. Thank you. Bye.